So that brings us to, the sad part of our conversation, the decision to leave Nobody's Angel. And it's one of those things where before you tell me, the true story, and before we pop more bubbles, can I give you what my theory is as like a fan?
For it. What is your theory?
Well, my theory is that because you're with Hollywood Records and because you're in this Disney machine, it seems like you guys weren't being focused on. It seems just like when you look at the amount of soundtracks that you guys are on, it's just like, we need a song, we need a song, we need a song. And the focus is on the Disney IP, the Disney movie. Well, what about the girls? Are we not focusing on them? And then when I see, like, saw the Pokemon performance with you and Youngstown, which, side note, I was just like, why does Youngstown sound familiar? Look up Youngstown. Oh my God, they did the Inspector Gadget song.
Yep.
So I was just like, oh my God.
And Allie's married to the lead singer, Dallas from Youngstown.
God, why does it all come back together? That's wild. No, I did not know that. No. So when I see, like, again, like the Pokemon thing, like, again, you guys are all in like your mid-20s. I know you don't want to be singing about Pokemon. I know you want to be either writing your own songs or picking producers and people to work with collaboratively. And if I had to guess, I want to say that you saw that, and were, said no more and got tired of it. Am I kind of in the ballpark?
You're in the ballpark.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pop a major bubble on something that I've never spoken on before.
Exclusive.
This is a big exclusive.
Okay.
All of that is true.
Yes.
Also, like I said, our manager was a fifth member and a manager and was getting more pay than he should have, and we weren't getting what we were supposed to. But we were locked in a contract. And within that contract, even if you left, he would still be your manager and still be in control of your career.
What a way to make a contract.
So I didn't leave Nobody's Angel. I got fired.
Oh, my God.
And I got fired on purpose because I went to a lawyer and he said, me and Amy Sue went to a lawyer and he said, the only way you can get out of your contract without your manager still being your manager is if you get fired, because then he's deciding not to work with you. So Amy Sue and I concocted a plan and I became one of the most obnoxious pop stars ever. And eventually got fired, which then gave Amy Sue, there's a clause that if the group changes, you may leave.
Okay.
So because I got fired and they were going to replace me, that allowed Amy Sue to leave without having to stay with management.
Wow.
And that's how we got out of our contract. And then I went back and sued the manager and got money.
Hey, now. That's right.
That's how... God. So I'm proud to say I got fired.
Man.
It's the only way. But it was because, like you said, we weren't, when it came to the second album, they weren't going to give us any kind of control. Our manager was still heavily involved in picking things. We did so many Disney soundtracks and premieres, but it was like, all right, we only got one video. What about a second single? What about a third? Our album is good. People are buying our album. Why aren't we pushing that more? And then move into a second one. Now, they did eventually do a second one when they replaced Amy Sue and I, but it didn't do as well as the first one. And they were still doing soundtracks. Cruella, what is that? Dalmatians?
Oh, 102 Dalmatians.
102 Dalmatians and stuff like that. And so it eventually fizzled out and, they let the group go. But, yeah, that's how I got it. It was a hard decision. Because then I had to be looked at as a bad guy. And for a long time, nobody, knew. But the funny thing is that even with today, people prefer the original Nobody's Angel over than the replacements.
Yeah.
And if things had been, gel, I would have been cool to continue. But we were getting shafted. And I was at an age where I knew we were getting shafted. And it wasn't fair.
Yeah, I mean, when fans can look and clearly make that connection as well, something's wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, it was like, all right, well, this is what we need to do. I knew exactly what to do, how to act. Allie was more of a favorite with the managers, so I knew if I pushed her button, pissed her off the right way, I, get to it. And
It's like a game of Survivor. You got to get
it
people on your
was,
team.
it was truly. And then, that's how we broke up, and it was hard because, like I said, and we've talked about it since then.
Well, that's what I was going to ask
We
you. It's
have
like, how
talked
does that
about it
affect your
since
personal relationship
we
with
didn't.
everyone?
I only talked to Amy Sue for years. Never talked to Sarah and Allie, and we've had people reach out time and time again over the years about us getting back together and doing a performance here and there and
Azalea
da-da-da.
Fest
And
downtown.
it took probably about 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And somebody asked us about it, and I was like, and they asked specifically, we want the original members. We don't want. And Allie reached out to me about it, and the four of us got on a call, and I was like, before we can do anything, we've got to clear this up. And they didn't, Sarah and Allie didn't know that I had done what I did to purposely get fired. So I had to tell them that. And they were, what? And then we had to, heal some of the stuff that happened after, Amy Sue and I left. And we're good now.
Yeah.
We're good.
That's great to
But,
hear.
It took a minute, and everybody was in a different space to receive it and understand. And Allie has kind of stayed in the business with her little clown thing. Sarah is, choreographing, but she's raising 3 boys that play hockey in Canada. Crazy
gosh.
life.
Okay.
Yeah. Amy Sue still lives in Florida, and we've always stayed close. I have, stayed with her. We've hung out. We go to Disney together as a family and stuff like that. So we're close. Her youngest son just got accepted into University of Pennsylvania. Yay!
And the next generation.
Yeah. So, it's come full circle. So yeah, that was the Bubble Pop exclusive.
Well, no, I'm glad to hear that everything is good now, because it's always so sad to hear, and not just from groups, but like just, friend group or, normal people, friends in general. It's so sad when people fight for such a long time.
Yep.
And there's 2 things that are sad. It's sad when you forget what it was you guys were mad about, and you've wasted all that time.
Yep.
And then B, it's also sad if the other example is when, you got wrong information. When someone told you something that you believe were true and impacted the way you reacted or the way you treated someone, and then to find out years later, well, no, none of that. Here's what actually happened.
Yep.
That's so sad. It's such a waste of time. It's so sad, but I'm glad that it ends on a happy note.
It ends on a happy
Yes.
note, exactly. And, perspectives change, and your priorities change, and, it's becomes a different experience for you, and you can look back and say, all right, I see this now, or how that could have looked this way, or how you could have taken it that way. And, it's good. I'm glad, thankful that Amy Sue and I have stayed close throughout the years. So we've always had that connection. Because like I said, we've always bonded close together. But I'm really happy now to say, there was a time where I was like, if Allie was on fire, I would just keep walking and add some oil. Like I had some deep-seated, but now I'm so happy for her and Dallas. They've been together for years, and she's got her own thing going, and she is a big thing on keeping Nobody's Angels alive. Like, she does all the social media stuff for Nobody's Angels.
That was what I was going to ask, because I noticed a couple years ago during pandemic times, it was like there was like a big push for like
resurgence, yeah. And then, went to our 20th year, there was a big thing. So she, we all respond on social media, but she's the one that keeps up with the Instagram account and the Facebook account. And things like that. And then we have, people that reach out to us individually or, hey, as a group. We just did an interview with a social media person maybe 3 or 4 months ago. I was at a horse show. So I was
okay.
like, on Zoom at a horse show. It's on YouTube. So the 4 of us, it's like, did a Zoom talking about the group and, our experiences and stuff. So it's really cool. And like I said, some people would be like, "Oh, you did pop stuff?" Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Guess what? That paid for me to go back to college after I messed up the first time and things like that. So I'm proud of my pop past.
Well, what you need to say is like, yeah, and people still talk about
And
it 25 years
people still
later.
talk about it
Like this
25
guy.
years later, and that is crazy to me. Like, it's so funny, and it, it's an ego booster, and it feels good, but it also lets you know, hey, like, I've left an imprint.
Yes.
You know?